So we're now starting the second session. Unfortunately, Evgenia Giannini had to go. She's indisposed of a small office problem. I have asked Christos Dimas to moderate this panel. But before that, I would like to say a few words about the point, actually, of this panel, where we have asked the representatives from each of the companies who actually participated and funded this study to take the floor and tell us few things, few observations from their participation and why they participated and assisted us in this venture. So we have Mr. George Polychroniou from DEPA, Public Gas Corporation. It is the first company which brought gas to Greece. Now it's the DEPA Commercial, as it says. Dr. Aristophanis Stefatos, CEO of Hellenic Hydrocarbons Energy and Resource Management Company, HEREMA, who are responsible for the licensing and supervision and coordination of hydrocarbon exploration in Greece. And in their portfolio, they have undertaken also CCUS. So they have a very vested interest in this, project. Then Mr. Stavrakopoulos, Energy Transition Specialist at DESFA, the Independent Gas Transmission Operator. They are running all the gas pipelines and LNG terminals in Greece. And Mr. Kostas Kosmidis from Kosnav Engineering, who is going to give us the shipping angle. Whereas Mr. Vlasopoulos from Hellenic Energy, who was also part of the study, of the companies that participate in the study, he is going to speak at the start of session 3 later in the afternoon. So, Christos, thank you very much for accepting this task, and you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Kostis. Let's begin with the session 2, and directly I will ask Mr. George Polychroniou. George, you have the floor.
Thank you. I will make some comments. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Stambolis for his introduction and for this very interesting day. First of all, I would like to answer the question why DEPA has participated in this study and why we have sponsored this study. The answer is very easy because all fossil fuels and as mentioned, we are the company having introduced natural gas in the country, and we are still the main natural gas supplier. All fossil fuels, including natural gas, have to face a challenge, a very important challenge, and this is the cost of emissions. Let's say that today the cost of each ton of CO2 costs around 80 euro, and it is expected that this price, because CO2 is emissions cost is a commodity, this is expected to increase to more than 100 euro per ton. That means that with this cost, all sites which are producing CO2 have to face this important challenge. We have seen in the study that A lot of figures have been given for lignite fire stations. This is the main reason, emissions cost is the main reason for having most of lignite stations now closed. And even Ptolemaida 5, which is expected to operate this year, is expected to be in production just for some years. Just to give you also a number, very easy calculation, if we quantify the emissions from a natural gas power station, from which you know that emissions are lower than lignite. If we calculate the emissions and the cost associated with those emissions for 400 megawatt natural gas CCGT operating for around 5,000 hours per year, we have to expect a cost which is around 80 million euro per year, which is quite important. And so this is the main parameter bringing us here. CCUS technologies are a very important way to tackle this challenge. First of all, this study is a very important and useful initiative to start thinking about this perspective. The study covers quite detailed, in a quite detailed way, the main parameters of this supply of this chain, dealing with carbon capture and storage, carbon capture, carbon transportation, and carbon storage. If I have to have a comment, is that we are talking about CCUS, but we didn't cover efficiently, I think, the U, which is the utilization part of the equation, which, as you understand, for a company as DEPA, and I think for other companies like refineries, for instance, is a very important parameter of this discussion. Because, first of all, why utilization is a very important parameter? Because, first of all, gives the possibility to deal with some sectors, energy sectors, which cannot decarbonize very quickly or efficiently, and may be difficult to decarbonize even after some years. For instance, transport, heavy-duty transport, maritime sector. So there are sectors which will continue to face this problem. And second, because it is a way, synthetic fuels, which are associated with this perspective, utilization of CO2 captured in combination with green hydrogen. Synthetic fuels is a very good way to avoid stranded assets. And we will have stranded assets if we won't see also this perspective. if and this utilization sector, I think it should be investigated more. Also because, as we see in the national plan, draft of which we have seen very recently, this is a sector which is analyzed in detail in national plan. It is, and I've seen the figures given. First of all, there is a very important development of green hydrogen production. This is not something which is expected only for Greece. This is expected in all Europe and internationally. It is mentioned in the national plan that 70% of the of green hydrogen which will be produced in the country will be used for synthetic fuels, oil and gas fuels, and also national plan is giving specific numbers, specific forecasts in reality regarding quantities of CO2 which will be captured for storage and for utilization. And if I'm not wrong, the projections regarding CO2 captured for utilization are higher than the quantities forecasted for carbon storage. So I mentioned that just to give you the perspective of a second pillar in this discussion. It's not only storage, it's equally utilization. A second comment on the study is, I'm coming back to what Dimitris Papakonstantinou mentioned, asked in the beginning, and the question is about costs. And we have seen some figures in the study. I also hear the answer given by Kostis that it's early to talk about that. But I think we should even give some figures for the whole. This is the important, because we have seen some figures for storage. It's a number around 15 euro per tons. But I think we should have an idea of the whole cost of the supply chain. And for this, we have a benchmark to compare with. And this benchmark is the cost of emissions avoided. So we have to compare this sum of costs associated with the whole supply chain with 100 or who knows what price in the future. This is very useful to have in order to see the real perspective. This is not only the question for storage, it's also the question for utilization, although I understand that for utilization, at least regarding synthetic fuels, this is very much related to the cost of green hydrogen, which for the time being is very high. So in order to have a cost which is really competitive in this field, we have to have green hydrogen at a much lower price than the one we have right now. A third comment I would like to say is it's a very interesting idea, this idea of hubs we have seen in the study. I think the most, but we have to think that the emitters in the coming years will not be the same as the emitters in the previous years. And I mention that because we have seen a lot in the study regarding West Macedonia, but West Macedonia will not be the main emitter in the coming years. Also, the study mentions that according to the plan, even Ptolemaida 5, which is considered as the main emitter, will be in operation until 2028. And this for economic reasons mainly. It is expected that the only thermal power generation plants will be CCGTs, which are now in construction, very modern CCGTs of around 2,500 megawatts. So these will be the thermal power plants which will be in operation together with the majority of power production coming from renewables. So the main emitters, I would say, will be those power plants, those CCGTs, which are located in different areas. In having this in mind and being part of one of those stations in Alexandroupolis, we agree that one of the hubs expected will be Alexandroupolis. Of course, the main hub will be Attica, because we have the two refineries and other places where we will activities where we will have cement, titan, ayete, which are very important parameters in this discussion. Last point from my side is that, of course, legal and regulatory framework is an important parameter, and it is very useful for the study to have an extensive reference to this parameter. It's important to have a very clear framework in order to have investments in this sector. And I would like to close my intervention by saying that we follow with we follow with interest the initiative of Energean for Prinos, which, as I understand, will be combined with the initiative of DESFA for bringing together a first batch of CO2 from places in Attica. This will be a starting point for this discussion. This is from my side, and thank you very much.
I was always wondering what is the specific interest of DEPA in this field. I think we had some answers about that. And okay, do we have any questions for Mr. Polychroniou? Okay, George, would like to thank you for your comments. DEPA is a main player for all these developments, but we have to admit that we have a lot of work in front of us in order to conclude what is going to do with this issue in Greece. Okay, let's move to our next speaker, Mr. Stefatos. You have the floor, and I have also the curiosity to listen your comments and your ideas for this issue, the value of which we understand that is coming from the study that IENE has prepared and presented to you with this conference. Mr. Stefanos, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good day, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today. I think we had the pleasure to experience a presentation which is one of the many steps that we will need to take as we go forward. So we welcome this work. I hope we're going to see more and more as we go forward. And from my side, as the CEO of HEREMA, or EVEIEP in Greek, which is now the competent authority for the CCS in Greece, I would like to share with you some of our thoughts about what we see forward, which come and combine, I think, nicely with most of the comments presented today. So on my first slide, I guess I'm going to be repeating previous speakers. CCS and CCUS, I hope we will see the U more and more, because the U is the key to a final solution to the emissions. But what we want to show here is that it is important, and the simplest way to demonstrate that is by the number of projects around Europe and how these are increasing. Having said that, I think it's also important to say that Greece is not falling behind. We are making steps in that direction. And I would like to present some of these steps that have happened to this date. So back in 2011, we had the legislation which established HHRM at the time. Today we are called HEREMA. And it was the same year where we had the implementation in Greece of the EU directive. Since then, maybe not that much happened, but it was actually in October 2020 where the new board of directors of HEREMA decided to set CCS as a strategic priority for the company. And that was it was about the first time that we discussed about having CCS as a main focus for our company, which was later in 2022 materialized into a reality with the legislation that was voted in the parliament and set HEREMA as the competent authority, while at the same time a very important piece of legislation came into force, and that was the legislation that allowed the current operator of Prinos to apply for a CCS storage permit. So understanding the pressure, the time pressure for delivering solutions in Greece and to the industry, I think that was a very critical decision made to allow an operator who's already active in the field to work towards developing a storage facility. And I would like to thank Energean for the very quick reflexes and turning around with an application, which we, after the evaluation of it and some back and forth, it was September after April, the same year, that the first license, exploration license, was issued. I think it's important to reflect on the very on the speed that these things have been processed, which is not very common in Greece. So, but we didn't stop there. In 2023, in February, HEREMA became the implementation agent for the financial support for this project through the RRF. So now we are in October of 2023. So we need to see what is the next steps. I can assure you that we are working on quite a few of them. We have an initiative that we would like to engage the industry so we can walk hand in hand with the industry in identifying the needed solutions rather than devising a solution and enforcing it to the industry. But this is something that we will be ready to discuss and present later this year. At this point, I would also like to point to some of the other initiatives that we have taken. So besides the first exploration license, we are evaluating, we are trying to identify, and I was very glad to hear Mr. Koukouzas, who is one of the first in Greece who have been working in that direction, to identify a secondary storage site. We need additional storage site in Greece. We are participating a pilot strategy project which is sponsored by Horizon EU project. I think credit should go to the former CEO of Herema, Mr. Basias, because this was something that started at his days. We continue that. So we have secured money, and we are processing some seismic for the Grevena basin to identify what we are missing at this point, the trap. We have the caprock, as Mr. Koukouzas said, we have the reservoirs, we need to find the trap. Now, we are cooperating with SINTEF, the research institute in Norway, through a project funded by the Norwegian, by the EEA. It's the Liechtenstein, Iceland and Norwegian fund. So we are trying to draw experience and lessons learned from them, so we don't need to repeat the same mistakes along the way. And we have recently, back in April, we issued a white paper where that was a work that completed together with KPMG, where we discuss the financial model and the challenges behind the value chain, which we think are very important at this point in time in maturing the progress of the CCS. Last but not least, we have sponsored this study, and we are happy to be here to see the results of it. So here's a map where we try to summarize how we see things in Greece today. So what you can see with the magenta color to the north, the Prinos complex. We have the CCS concept there. I hope, and I'm optimistic that this will be materialized into a project soon, where we have about 60 million tons of storage capacity, which is not enough. It's a good start, but we will need to get more. So, and then what you see with dots of various colors, the colors are depending on the industry, the different emitters in Greece, and how we envisage the future. So you have a big cluster of emitters around Attica, where we have a lot of industrial players contributing most of the emissions. And then we select the second cluster, if I say so, to the north, which is a more of an elongated one, starting from West Macedonia to Thessaloniki all the way to Alexandroupolis. And we think that we need to establish a network that we transfer CO2 to our storage site, hopefully to a secondary storage site in Greece, and of course, for a long-term perspective, we will need to be able to export it outside the country. And when I say outside the country, we need to be open that it may need to go not within necessarily an EU country, but outside EU. So we are quite active with Brussels as well and the different entities working there to make sure that this is a message well understood when they prepare legislation. Now, as I said, the work we did with KPMG and the thing that we had identified at the time as a critical bottleneck was that nobody was sure exactly how this value chain really works. So we had the economics, which were not very clear and still maybe are not. We have the regulation aspect, but that's something that we feel confident that we can deal with it. We can write the regulation, we can prepare the regulation as needed, as long as we have the full chain of value and also readiness. And there, another problem. It's the chicken and the egg. Who will start first? Who will be the one who will be investing and committing resources to this idea? So, to conclude on that, and without taking much of your time, we evaluated, like this study did, a lot of the existing solutions around the world. We keep track of the projects as they come, and what we realize is that we have a variety of economical models that can work. We have those that are very focused on the state priorities and those that are more focused on the investor priorities. You can see the horizontal axis on the bottom, and then you can see the projects as they fall. So we had the Sleipner field in Norway and the Lake Charles in the US, driven by state, but we also had the Longship in Canada projects, which is more about addressing the risk of the investor. But what we see lately is that we land somewhere in the middle, like in many cases, the golden middle, as they said in the ancient times in Greece. And we have the CFDs, but also the RAB models, the regulated asset base. So maybe it's a hint about how we should progress. We keep track of it, we follow closely, and we, as I said, we will continue our discussion with the industry to select which is the best way for Greece in order to address this. So before thanking you and closing my statements, I would like also to repeat what I said earlier, and I think Mr. Polychroniou said it right. The utilization, is very, very important. I hope that we will see more of it. The hints about utilizing the CO2 to produce synthetic fuel, renewable fuel, goes hand in hand with hydrogen. So these are projects that in some way, we are associated, and we hope that we will see that they will come along. And what I would also like to say, we keep thinking in the EU at least, the CO2 as an emission, as a waste, which has its challenges, but as I think very clearly illustrated by the study, it is a tentative commodity as well. And this is something that we should keep in mind as we go forward. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Stefatos. We thank you also for a lot of information you gave to us. I would like to ask you if already you had some contacts or you have thoughts to have contacts with neighboring countries in order somehow to coordinate this field now that is in the early stage.
Well, I cannot say that we have had specific contacts in that regard, although we are thinking about it. What I can say is that we have provided comments to EU legislation that this should be something allowed. I think the London Protocol that applies for the North Sea is something that we can utilize to a significant degree. So I think as people discussed earlier, there are countries, neighboring countries, that could be proven complementary to what we do. But at the same time, let me say that our first priority, above all, is to mature the first site in Greece. Second priority, if we can find an additional site in Greece, and it's not only because we care about Greece, and I represent the state company, and my first priority is to be concerned about the state interest in this, but it's also because distance is very important for the viability of this project. So the closer it is, the better it is. So our first priorities is the Prinos and an alternative site in Greece, and the third priority is absolutely discussing with neighbors and having that as an option.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Mr. Papakonstantinou.
Short question. In the graph you showed that around Athens,
Microphone,
8 to 14 billion tons per annum are produced. Are they all emitted or some of them are used in the industry, refining or cement, or their own processes?
I would assume that, to be honest, I cannot answer it with 100% confidence, but I would assume that the volumes used by the refineries are excluded, because this should be the volumes that are emitted. But I will need to come back to you. Yes.
Mr. Mathioudakis? Okay.
If I may ask a philosophical question, philosophical because it will be for the far future. We've heard earlier with Mr. Basias, we've seen the picture he showed, the map of the Mediterranean, the situation about Egypt, Norway, and the UK. They have a big potential, a big capacity for storage because they have been oil producers. Now, in your case, we are in the phase of oil explorations, and there are several possible fields. These fields could be used for oil or gas extraction, and then later on as CCS storage. This would be something, of course, much further in time, but it's an additional, let's say, asset in terms of these fields. Have you any thoughts on that? Has your institution made any projections or evaluations in terms of such a development?
Well, I see the point, but I have to admit that it is quite far down the line because, so, as you said, so currently our primary focus, our full commitment is to proceed with the exploration efforts. And then depending on what we find, then we can discuss the rest. Until then, I think it would be premature and way down the line for the priorities of our company. But I understand that what you said. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a very quick question also on the sites, the potential, let's say, sites that we have seen also in the study that they are onshore sites, saline aquifers and etc. Do you have any, let's say, timeline based on the procedures that need to be followed and etc.? How close can it be, let's say, to have sequestration on these sites, on onshore sites? And what would be the impact of the local community acceptance of such, because we have seen that this is a struggle in Europe in general. Thank you.
Well, what we need to say at this point is that the sites that we are discussing are currently on a theoretical basis. Not only theoretical, maybe I'm not fair by saying that, but they're still missing a few critical elements in order for them to be viable projects or tentative concepts. So I think that our priority would be to collect the necessary data and reach the point of confidence that this could actually work before we move to your question, which would be devising a timeline for such developments. What I would also like to point out is that at this point, we are focusing on Prinos because, not only because we have the reservoirs, which we know that they were functioning and they had sealed off for millions of years, but also because even if we move to the aquifer or even if we move outside. If something happens uncontrollable, we still have an evaporite layer, which is a very effective sealing unit that will prevent leakage to the surface. So we are more cautious than not when we discuss about where we can go. So we would, and then once we feel comfortable and we feel that we can go to the society and defend such a recommendation as a safe and working recommendation, then we will do that. So I would say that we have some time before we reach to that point.
On the back of Stavros' question, is aquifer a valid sequestration site for Greek legislation?
Well, the EU directive which sets the tone of the national legislations does not exclude aquifers. And when we talk about aquifer, I think we need to be careful. I don't think, and this is my personal opinion, I could be wrong, but if I was asked, I don't think that we will go to freshwater aquifers in Greece and store CO2. But for example, in a saline aquifer, where we cannot use it, yes, it's an absolutely valid option. And I think that this is the way we are heading. If we do not go to the aquifers, then we have a problem. And the whole CCS will be put under question about its effectiveness and its possibility to store enough. So I hope I'm answering your question.
I only asked because I know initially it was not translated into the Greek directive. So that is corrected?
It will be corrected. Yeah, it has been corrected for the ongoing site. And I think we could also envisage that it will be corrected for future sites as well.
Thank you.
Okay, we thank again Mr. Stefatos, and we move to the next presentation. Our speaker now is Mr. Ioannis Stavrakopoulos, Energy Transition Specialist, and we'd like to understand what is the specific interest of DESFA in this field. Mr. Stavrakopoulos, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning also from my side. My name is Yannis Stavrakopoulos. I'm an energy transition specialist in DESFA, mainly engaged with hydrogen and CCUS activities. And today I'm going to present you our view and vision about the CCUS opportunity in Greece. So before I start, I would like to thank IENE for such a great initiative to develop the study and organize today's meeting. So, a few words about DESFA. DESFA is the Greek natural gas transmission system operator, owning and operating the high pressure pipeline system. It was established in 2007 and it was privatized back in 2018, where Senfluga, a consortium consisting of SNAM, the Italian TSO, Enagas, the Spanish one, and Flux, the Belgian one, along with Damco, acquired the 66% of our company, while the rest, 34%, remained to the Greek state. Besides our regular activities and operation of the system, we are actively participating in several league organizations, both for natural gas, such as NGO, which is the union of the gas TSOs in Europe, and Gas Infrastructure Europe. And more recently, we're heavily engaged in the energy transition initiatives, such as European Hydrogen Backbone, Gas for Climate, and European Clean Hydrogen Alliance. So our strategic planning and actions are focused on three main pillars. First of all, is the new gas investments, where we plan to expand our system to regions where today there's no gas available, while at the same time increasing the interconnection with our neighboring countries, such as Bulgaria and North Macedonia. It shall be noted that all of our new projects are 100% hydrogen ready, meaning that with minor modifications, we'll be ready to be converted for pure hydrogen transportation in the future. Given that, as you may understand, hydrogen is a very important element for our business in the future. Therefore, we prepare our system to be able to accept hydrogen blends in the near future with the scope of developing a dedicated hydrogen backbone in Greece, also interconnected with a similar project in Bulgaria. And this project it's expected to be included in the next PCI list that's going to be published in November. In regard to the CCS initiative, most recently has become also a priority. We are part in a PCI proposal and hopefully in the sixth list along with Energean. More information about this project will be provided by Ms. Ardi and Ms. Avram in a later panel. And our main interest is in the midstream part of the value chain, meaning the pipelines and the liquefaction of the CO2 after it's being captured. So for this part, we strongly believe that there are significant benefits in providing an aggregated solution instead of standalone initiatives. So instead of each emitter to design its own transportation method from the capture site to the permanent storage location, our belief is that the centralized aggregated solution would offer many benefits. The most obvious one is the lower cost due to the economies of scale, but there are even some more hidden, let's say, such as that funding would be more easily accessible for a single project instead of standalone projects, while also another long-lasting procedure, which is the permitting and licensing, could be accelerated if we're talking about a single facility. So besides those benefits, we believe that CCS also has some other benefits in the Greek society and economy in general, as for example that it will increase circular economy in the country, which appears to be quite absent in the moment, while at the same time it could increase competitiveness and also create new jobs both in new sectors and also through upskilling of existing personnel in other sectors. So finally, regarding the final outcomes of the study, from our view, they can be categorized into 5 main groups, let's say. First of all is the timing. We strongly believe that CCS is the most direct and mature solution for reducing the carbon emissions in the moment. And we notice that at EU level, there's a continuously increasing political momentum, given that by the end of the year we expect a European CCS strategy, and also there are several acts that are under preparation, expected to be published during the following months. Besides timing, also the topology is important. We know that Greece has a quite small industrial sector, but we believe that there is a critical mass of emissions, as Mr. Stefatos mentioned before, and the fact that our industries are located within clusters also enhances the opportunity of the CCUS hub development, as also indicated in the study. In terms of technology, it shall be noted that for the midstream part, CO2 transportation through pipelines is not a new business. It is something that's happening for more than 30 to 40 years or even more in the US. And according to recent studies, for the transportation of the CO2 from the capture to the permanent storage or its utilization, it seems that CO2 pipelines for quite short distances is the most cost-efficient solution, while for the longer ones, dedicated liquid CO2 carriers via sea could be the optimal solution. Of course, all of these are on a case-by-case study. There is not an optimal solution for everything, but this is the high-level information we acquire from the current studies. As already mentioned before, the synergies are extremely important. CCUS is strongly related both with blue hydrogen production, since hydrogen is captured through this process while we're using fossil fuels to produce hydrogen. And most importantly, it's a quite dispensable feedstock for the synthetic fuels production, which is expected to play a major role in the Greek energy sector in the future. Of course, as in any other niche market, there are several challenges that need to be tackled in time in order to see developments. First of all, as said by all the speakers before me, the absence of a regulatory framework is something that does not provide, let's say, safety for the investors to invest in CCUS projects in Greece and in the region in general. And most importantly, even though that there are significant funding mechanisms in place at this stage, say funding innovation fund, modernization fund, due to the large demand and interest for CCUS projects in Europe, it appears that they are not adequate at the moment, but we shall expect more mechanisms to be available in the near future. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention, and I am at your disposal for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stavrakopoulos. Given the profile of your company, do you have any experience from Italy's field area that you can share with us?
I guess you mean about the Ravenna storage facility, right? No, at this moment, given also that we have a PCI proposal that we participate, our main focus is in Prinos area, but we examine other opportunities. Ravenna perhaps is the most mature alternative solution and the closest one to Greece, as Mr. Stefatos mentioned. But at this stage, we do not have any further information to can be shared. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Don't miss the opportunity to ask questions to our speakers. You are not going to have this opportunity every day. So, okay, let's finish with the, yes. My understanding is that Mr. Kosmidis is not here. Is that right? I asked Chrisa, and she told me that. Okay. Yes, Mr. Papakostadino.
Thanks for the presentations. You presented a new model of development, concentrating the emissions, then transporting them, etc. And since you may be one of the leading companies with a leading role in the development, have you made an economic evaluation of this proposal? Because Yorgos as well and myself, a lot of people ask about the economic dimension of this. Thank you.
Yeah, I totally understand that the cost is a significant element of this stage. We are currently somehow conducting a pre-feasibility study. First of all, we try to see the technical characteristics that are required for the transportation, and hopefully within the first quarter of the next year, we're going to have more detailed information about the cost element. Because the cost element is a multi-parametric, let's say. It has to also, you have to also consider the grants, you have to also consider the fund. So we are currently exploring the pre-feasibility in a technical aspect that will lead us to cost elements in the near future. We don't have something in place to share right now.
Thank you. A short question to Mr. Stefatos. It seems that you have made the best or the one study that we know about economics, the KPMG study. Is this available on your site?
The study does not quantify the economics. The study discusses from a qualitative point of view the models that could work, how we could set up this value chain. I think we were tempted to have some numbers, but I think the companies, the industry has an advantage on that, and we will be talking to them to find a way to share as much information as they can, because we also respect and understand that they have confidentiality and competitive issues that they are sensitive about. But I would like to grab the opportunity since I'm speaking and comment on this concept that I think we have. There is an interesting concept here, and I like this concept because I would expect that we will see competitive prices coming from this if it works. And at the end of the day, what we should not forget is that we need to do it in an economically effective way, all of us. If we have a competitive price model, if we have a competitive concept, then we stand to win and see it working. So I think all good ideas in that direction will be welcomed by us, by the state, and also the industry.
Okay. I would like to thank you for attending this session. Now it's the time for a lunch break, but I will ask all of you to be here 2 o'clock for the third session. Thank you very much.